And good evening, and welcome to a live special edition of the Carolina Weather Group. It is Monday, June the 28th, 2021. I am James Brierton coming to you from Charlotte, North Carolina, and we have our panel spread out across the Carolinas as we are continuing to track Tropical Storm Danny. Here's a live look at Charleston, South Carolina, where we're continuing to see that low cloud deck rolling on through. The winds, according to this camera, have subsided a little bit based on what we were seeing earlier, but we have two reports and panelists right now joining us from that Charleston area. We have Shay Gibson and Jared Smith, who will tell us what those winds were like a little bit earlier. And we also have our dear friend Scotty Powell along with us to help steer tonight's conversation. Now, Tropical Storm Danny did make landfall just in the last, hour or so, guys, and is now continuing to make its trek inland. Let's go bring in Shay and his great tropical analysis for all the latest right now on what Tropical Storm Danny, the storm that we only just got to know, is up to.
Thanks, James. So Danny, it was made landfall near Pritchards Island, just north of Hilton Head, about an hour ago during on the 8 p.m. Eastern Time update from the NHC. So I've been tracking this all day long, watching the pattern. It did have a convection sort of blow up on the western side of the storm as it entered the Gulf Stream and up along the coastal shelf waters along the Florida Hatteras slope. So it had some warm water feed there, but the convection was mainly limited to the western side. All the way to the north of Charleston, we had a few bands of showers roll to the area. The gradient, I would say, was a little bit more impressive from Charleston to Winyah Bay, which is near Georgetown, where we saw gusts of 46 miles an hour at 10:02 a.m. this morning. Charleston, for the most part, we got gusts at around 41 miles per hour at our South Folly sensor, 37 to 38 miles an hour at Isle of Palms. For the most part, though, our average wind speeds are right around 24 to 28 miles per hour. And they're still coming up from the south now at about 21 to 23 miles per hour, gusting up into the upper 20s. So a little bit of residual wind coming from the system with some banding, a little bit of banding. We saw a little bit of rain, a little bit of go outside. But for the most part, we had some showers, mainly around midday, early afternoon. That was the heaviest stuff that we saw. And then most of it was really limited down into the Savannah area. So Savannah really got the worst of it. So fortunately for us, we didn't see that much. But even the winds down there, I didn't see any of the surface obs really peeling up into the tropical storm force speeds, but that might not be the case in some areas, some open areas along the backside on land where we don't have any sensors. So at one point, I think the highest speeds were 45 miles per hour from the NHC at the 5 p.m. and then 5 p.m. 40 miles an hour at the next update as it made landfall. So we're a very, very weak tropical storm. Danny made landfall just a little while ago, around just before 8 p.m. tonight. So Jared, you had some interesting sounding readings that showed that it was really dry at the mid-level. So let's hear about that.
Let's see. Can you guys hear me okay? Sorry, I just right. I'm good. I'm not muted. Okay, excellent. Live sometimes causes problems. Yeah, so, one of the things about Danny that's been super interesting is that, one, it came on very quickly. It was another one of those, wave to circulation, had its convection very far displaced from the center, sheared off like crazy. And the sounding tonight continued to confirm that. We saw a lot of dry air above 700 millibars. And really the sounding looked more like just a typical June day and then anything else. You would take one look at that in isolation and think, okay, yeah, it's okay. It's a typical summer day. And for the last few days when we've been watching this wave, that's kind of been the thinking, is that, okay, yeah, this might get some tropical characteristics, but at the end of the day, the sensible weather effects are probably not going to be too much different. And as it turned out, that ended up being mostly correct. And I'll give a lot of credit to the high resolution ensemble forecast, the HREF too, because it painted a big bullseye of very heavy rain somewhere in the Savannah, southern South Carolina corridor, and boy, did it deliver. That's for sure. James, we got Chris Jackson with us. We're showing some of his tweets right now. He was out in the flesh of that and in the thick of that. So, Chris, good to see you. And how are things where you are now?
Hey, Jared, good to see you guys. Shay, good to see you when I joined in here. Yeah, it was an interesting day. Started out pretty non-eventful. I think, like you were just alluding to, the soundings told a lot of the story. Starting from this morning's 12Z from Charleston. throughout the day and really throughout last night, we kept having these blowups of convection that would try to get a good center around the core of Danny now. And every time that convection really blossomed, you start to see some CDO start to expand. The shear would just do its number, just decouple it, just horribly. And that happened again this afternoon. And what happened outside of Hardyville about 7 p.m. was just pretty insane.
Chris, is that where you are now? Are you still near Hardyville?
No, I'm actually down in Savannah now. I'm down here on the riverfront. Probably going to camp out here for the night. Pretty tired, early morning, but we started the day out actually here in Savannah, and me and Brett, and we headed out to Tybee Island first thing this morning, and the impacts out there were none when we were out there, and we were out there about 10 a.m., 11 a.m. It's not too many days you can go on the beach with a tropical, potential tropical cyclone 200 miles away from land, and there's not even a leaf moving on a palmetto tree. It was really surreal out there. It's like, there's not much happening out here. So we decided to head north up to Edisto, and took about an hour 45, 2 hours to get up there. And even up there, we got a few good bands that moved on shore probably around 3-4 o'clock. And once that happened, dry air again. It was obviously evident just being out there on the beach right there at Coots Restaurant that this ain't gonna be the place to be if we want to see any impacts, because we have blue skies to the northeast out over open ocean. So we made a decision to start heading back down toward Savannah as we saw that big blossom of convection that became decoupled move off to the west. And that's where we got into the thick of things once we approached Hardyville.
And Chris, Tybee Island, I'm seeing Tybee South sensor. The highest wind speeds we got there were in the upper 20s, I think, in gusts from our mesonet. But the rainfall amount, we're talking about 3 or 4 inches in that area near Hardyville. Now, Hardyville's a known spot on I-95 to flood over. And they actually have to shut down. That happened a couple times back with tropical systems moving ashore. But that, 7.04, James got pulled up here. 7.04 inches in that area. Luckily that wasn't a little further north, or else I-95 would have been shut down. Looks like it did bleed over into that area.
And I didn't get the biggest one apparently, Shay, because there's a spot where it's over 8 estimated by the radar here.
Wow.
Chris, does that, because this is just south of Hardyville, so this is kind of south of where you are, Chris. So I'm not sure, what kind of verification we're going to see out of these numbers, but
I'm right there with you on that. I don't know what the verification is going to be. Whether it's Kokoros or some kind of station there, on the south side of 95, outside of Hardyville. But man, the rainfall there, the video that you guys are showing, that was shot over an hour after it happened. We were coming through the first time. I think the Weather Channel had our stream up, and man, I'm telling you, being from the South my whole life, you see these heavy thunderstorms, even tropical weather brings heavy rain. That rain was something else. That rain was unbelievable, and I would not be shocked if there was 7 or 8 inches that fell in there, because there's a solid stretch of about 4 miles of US 17 between Hardyville and the Savannah River. That the scene's just like you're seeing right now on the screen. It just wasn't one little localized spot. It was just, we had a great spot to pull off and actually, document this.
Chris, we spent the last couple of shows here on the Carolina Weather Group talking about flooding, especially along the coast. You're out there, you're taking pictures, you're on the Weather Channel, you're making observations, but we also saw you tweeting to the Weather Service. So what role can you explain to the audience that you're playing out there in addition to just photographer?
Right. And you bring up a great point. It's not just about chasing the storm and shooting cool video and, trying to see, quote unquote, what the most extreme weather you can find is. That is all part of it. Sure. Let's be honest. That's all part of it. But goal number one is to get people information that could potentially save someone's life, or give them the information that they can save their own life. And, that's bar none the most important thing. The little 3-tweet thread I sent to Charleston, the first place we pulled up to with the tree across the road, I dropped a pin and started driving, and I had the tweet half done. We pulled up at the flooding. I finished the first tweet, shot video for the second one, and by the time we got down the street to the car in the ditch, I'm like, well, I'll just send it all right now. So it was kind of like a smorgasbord over about 15 minutes trying to put a little tweet thread together. But the rainfall down there, man, I'm telling you, all the ditches, the yards are full. I mean, I've never seen anything like that fast in person. And that goes back to 2015 in Columbia. That little localized rainfall area for about an hour, man, that was some intense rain. You know, I think the WPC put a weather mesoscale discussion out for was it 3 to 4 inches? I can't remember. I briefly looked at it because I was trying to drive and be safe driving and didn't really get a chance to look at it too much.
Yeah, you can always tell a tropical rain versus just your standard deluge from like a storm event, right? I mean, when you have a tropical feed into that, it's almost like when you see it hit the windshield, you can tell the difference in that rain versus just normal rain on a rainy day or a storm. But it's almost like it spreads evenly. All the drops are the even size, and it just sheets the windshield like over and over.
Right,
so,
right. There's no reprieve from it whatsoever. And what was really interesting about that, Jared, I'm sure you're probably looking at the radar like a hog if I think I know you well. But it looked like, as that convection that moved on shore, that was part of the CDO from this morning as it got sheared away. And it looks like it tried to redevelop, and it looks like what happened down there, just between Hardyville and the Savannah River, it tried to get a new low-level vortex under it, and that's what caused it just to become stationary and try to get a new spin right up under it. That's what it looked like to us.
Thank you because I thought I was crazy.
No.
I saw the exact same thing there, and I was like, "This thing's going to claw dead on us." It's going to. It was really trying there for a minute.
You pull back up the radar data. If you look for Warner Robins, I know when we were headed down to Savannah, right before we got on I-95, it probably was around 6 o'clock, probably 5, 6 o'clock, 5:30-ish. If you look from the Warner Robins radar archive, those tops on those storms were 62,000 feet. I mean, we started seeing 62,000 feet with the amount of dry air that was evident in the Sparta soundings, and all the these are like no-brainers off for storm chasing. Like, you're about to have something big go down. Like, you need to get there.
Yeah, I was looking at the GOES data too, and there were several of those thermal couplets that you see in particularly intense thunderstorms, where you have the very cold cloud tops on one side and then warming cloud tops on the other, and that's indicative of very, very robust convection. And that was possible to see that because we had the 1 minute sector over us today, which was super helpful. But yeah, that was really intense. And I think the thing that again, this is something that we don't normally associate with the tropical system, is that this is on the southwest flank. This is not, this was not in the northeast part. Northeast part is bone dry. I mean, we were in the northeast part. We sent a sounding up. I mean, we are very dry comparatively here. And I got to wonder, we'll go back and look at the data. We'll go back and look at the, at the analyses and see what was what. But I can't help but wonder if maybe there was if there was some sort of maybe some differential heating boundary or something like that that's set up there, and really put the squeeze on that. I think it's going to be an interesting postmortem there, because that certainly was because just the level of convergence there and just the intensity of that convection, with all that dry air in place. I mean, it was certainly a very interesting thing to watch. And I'll say it was modeled very well. I'll go back. I'll say that again. It was modeled extremely well. It was pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, when I actually got down here to meet up with Brett this morning, I showed him the 12Z Charleston sounding when I woke him up, and I was like, "You ever seen 50 knots out of the east at 150 millibars?" And he looked at me and was like, "Well, what are you talking about? What?" He looked at me like, "What?" So yeah, I mean,
yeah, that was weird.
No, it was on the cams 2 days ago, and I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, I probably don't really buy much of that. Like, I might buy some of it, but maybe not the whole pie. And it absolutely verified, like you guys are saying. And the one thing I wish we could have had, maybe a little bit of recon from the aircraft, but I understand the logistics and all that. That's fine. But thankfully, it wasn't a bigger event, because think about this: if there would have been half the amount of shear that there was, let's just say there still was shear, maybe half the amount out of the 3, the 4 or 5 times that storm tried to get a solid core, CDO, sustained convection, all the things. that could have really ramped up quick and probably caught some people off guard.
I mean, it did.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, went over the Gulf Stream and you started seeing those towers go up right over the Gulf Stream, and it did.
For anyone who's wondering, what was the first time that it appeared on a Hurricane Center Outlook? Was it Friday night? Saturday? Anybody remember?
I think it was either Friday night or Saturday morning, James. I think you're
Saturday afternoon, I think. But yeah, to your point, Chris, the sounding this morning, even yesterday, we're seeing very low shear at the mid levels. I mean, your shear was really up high, and all east flow all the way across. That's due in part by mid level, high, and then a rather large dome off the northeast United States, a huge ridge out there north of the Bermuda. But you saw that once Danny kind of got back underneath that explosion of convection along the shoreline, it got even bigger. So you saw all of that. The boundary layer just completely coupled, and then next thing you know, it's blowing up. You're seeing gravity waves spread in all directions, almost familiar with rapid intensification. I mean, I'm not calling that here. What I'm saying is the pattern looked very close as that slid up underneath its convection and got coupled once again. It just blew up. Pretty impressive postmortem.
Yeah, and not to mention, that storm yesterday, really early yesterday, it was threading the needle between two upper level lows that were retrograding back off to the west around the subtropical ridge, and that thing had to really navigate that just to be what it was today. But I really think the southerly upper level low, what was left of it, helped a lot of times with that convection to really get those outflow channels expanding. And I'm really curious to actually read this report when it comes out after the end of the year, even though it may not be the storm everybody remembers. And that's great, but from the meteorological side of it.
Here's a visual from Dakota Smith of satellite imagery today. And yeah, you can see that intensification. And the other thing I want to show guys, and I'm presuming you were in the same boat as I was, I kept getting flashbacks to Bertha. And here's Bertha last year, very similar location, but that was another one of those formed right off the coast and made landfall before most people even knew that it was a thing. And I think most of us were.
I was in the plains. I was like, tropical what?
I was, you think about Bertha, that started life as a that started life as a special marine warning storm for a water spout, and that really escalated quickly. We're gonna sign off Shay there, and yeah, I mean that one escalated super quickly. At least this one we had a couple days notice. Is okay, there's something there.
A couple days notice if you're monitoring Inside Baseball Hurricane Center outlooks or paying very close attention to your 11 o'clock news. Right. But this isn't something that came off the coast of Africa and we watched it for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, and it got it together. It did get it together pretty quickly. I don't know if it was as fast as Bertha, but I mean, it's the same kind of homegrown thing. Again, it's a homegrown storm. And that is June. I mean, that's what happens in June. Usually we're looking at frontal boundaries for this sort of thing and not straight up tropical waves. But the Gulf Stream, it just does things.
Yeah, Bertha, for the record, was late May of 2020. So similar-ish timelines here in the pre-peak of the hurricane season.
Yeah, James, I was wondering if you could pull that visible back up. I want to point some out of Jared, but maybe you guys
of today, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, because it was something I noticed. It did this morning and again this afternoon, I believe.
Here it comes.
Yeah, you're good. But it's kind of hard to see without the lat lawn. But that storm was on a northwesterly trajectory. I actually plotted it out by hand this morning. I had it a 300-degree motion, which is northwest at 16 or 18 knots. But that storm kept on to the northwest until it got that CDO and that deep convection. Every time that happened, it took a jog due west.
It totally turned. Gave it more time over water.
Right. And see, that also happened, like I was telling Jared, as it became ashore, you start to get some convergence, with land. You get land convergence, so you can get a little natural enhancement of the winds and stuff like that. But it tried to pull back up under that convection. And that's just really interesting to watch on satellite as it's over the ocean, and also be directly under it because of wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was watching that this morning too. I mean, Scotty and I, we were talking in our Carolina, weather group private chat, and it was like, guys, I think this is going a little more north than had been modeled, and that was for a time correct. It was certainly probably feeling more influence from the high to the north, and then as it generates more convection, then that will turn it. And so, I mean, that was this is going to be an interesting one to study. I always find that the minor storms, the ones that that are like the Berthas, that are like the Dannies, I think those are the ones that we need to understand better, because it's there's a whole lot that goes into it, and these are the kinds of things. Again, this is kind of on a small scale what happens with some of our with per se a Michael, or literally every storm that hit Louisiana last year, intensifying right up to landfall.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you make a great point. It's the mesoscale features in these small storms that people might not really think about, or you're not going to hear much about in the media. For whatever reason, these tiny mesoscale features that are really hard to forecast, especially with any kind of time guidance out, until you get within that narrow 3-hour window and you can actually see it about to happen. If you take that area that James had pulled up 7 to 8 inches, spatially, that's a pretty big area. What happens if you move it 15 miles southwest?
And that's what the HREF was showing. I think that's the other thing too. And that again, and that's the beauty of ensembles. And I'll tell people, and I'll tell you what, every day we should be counting our lucky stars with it. 1 minute satellite updating faster than the radar. We now have an ensemble of great high resolution models that have really been nailing it so far this summer with heavy rain events. Just absolutely crushing it with the heavy rain events this summer so far. Really putting those 3 inch and 3 hour probabilities right in the right place. So again, I think that as our tools get better, we can start to look at this, a little further out, and keep in mind that the HREF had this kind of bullseye in this area for about 2 days. Like, that's pretty good.
I want to orient people. Here's Hilton Head. Here's Savannah. What do you guys think we would be talking about right now had this bullseye been, I'm going to measure it now, 10 miles to the south over Savannah?
I would be filming people getting rescued out of boats right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, quite honestly, and that, thankfully that's something that's not happening, but it doesn't take away from the folks that did experience it, because I mean, there was some locally extreme rainfall down there, and it could have been a lot worse, but it still was bad in its own right. But it's so fascinating from a meteorological perspective, the science part of it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wanted to jump in, and Chris, good seeing you. Glad you was able to get down there. Joe Bastardi tweeted out today, and Joe's kind of likes to look at long range things, and he kind of said this kind of might be the atmosphere telling us what could be taking place a couple of months down the road as we really get into the heart of the season. We've seen, Jared, as you was talking about earlier, the rapid intensification process happen with storm after storm over the last few years. So if that is true, that's kind of scary in a way as we look into the heart of hurricane season and could see another round of this happening again for this hurricane season.
Yeah, the rapid intensification, I experienced that firsthand last year with was it Zeta on the Gulf Coast. We were in Waveland, Mississippi, which if anybody knows anything about Waveland, the town was about wiped off the face of the earth, for lack of better terms, during Katrina. I mean, they really took it on the face. And we were in Waveland as that storm came in, and let me tell you, that little Cat 2, it wasn't big. It wasn't a big storm. That storm blew out every single window in our truck. I mean, that storm got really bad really fast. And the rapid intensification stuff is something, especially when storms get close to the coast, is so important to take into consideration for communications and preparedness for people.
Yeah, I honestly think that is probably the most urgent problem in hurricane forecasting. I think that we're getting really good at storm surge. I think the rapid intensification part, we got to crack that nut. I think that is, because we just keep seeing it.
I'm willing to say I think there's a part of this. How many times have we seen a sustained group of models kind of hint at it, maybe not go overboard like the NAM3 just going crazy, but you see the signals, you see hints, you see maybe a little inklings like okay, this is saying this and this is saying that, and I think maybe sometimes we don't want to talk it up, but also it's like walking the fine line of communicating the risk between likelihood and probability.
Mm-hmm. Uncertainty is hard. I think that's that is what we deal with anyway, with every day, from simple probability precipitation forecasts, from simple painting pops, all the way up to messaging hazards, such as the high end of hazards, such as what could happen with with a landfalling tropical system. And not only do we have a long way to go in the meteorological side of things, but the social science too. I'm not going to necessarily play Dr. McLean, Kim Claudia McLean from Weather Brains here. She's much better at this than I am, but there is a lot, there's a lot that we can grow into. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot that we're going to find here. And I guess the big takeaway from Danny is I'm glad it wasn't much worse.
Yeah, let's take a look here at some of the storm reports so we can let people know what it is that we did see with this storm. Just like Chris kind of said earlier, it could have been a heck of a lot worse, but we don't want to forget anybody who might be experiencing a little bit of impact tonight, right? So here's the local storm reports from our friends at the IEM bot. Whoa, it updated. Okay, let's push it back into the coast, right? So we had 30, 40 mile per hour knot winds recorded in the Charleston area, but the flash flood warnings here in green, and also reports of downed trees right here in Port Wentworth, South Carolina. This is just outside or between that Hilton Head and Savannah area, right? So we do have trees coming down. We have lightning striking the clubhouse here at the Rice Hope subdivision, and that obviously would be a factor too with a big storm like this rolling on through. Smoke in the area reported as a aftermath of this lightning strike. We have another one at WSAV television building in Savannah, Georgia, being struck by lightning on two separate occasions. Of course, I'll presume it had something to do probably with that big metal mast they have in their back parking lot. And you can see where a lot of the impacts were felt from this storm. We can see also on radar tonight some of the heavier rains right now making their way just outside of the Augusta area. And we still have some of those winds on blowing through too. So, we want to know what it was that you saw. You can comment if you're watching us live right now, and we can put those up on the screen and let people know what it was that you maybe observed, in addition to what Chris Jackson saw and reported to us earlier was that flooding there in Hardyville, South Carolina. It's could have been a heck of a lot worse, but still plenty of people had a bad enough day here with this tropical storm that I'm not going to say it came without warning. And if someone says it, that's incorrect, because we did get tropical storm warnings before we even had Danny. We had Tropical Depression 4 come out this morning. We had those tropical storm warnings come out in anticipation of a late afternoon, early evening landfall. And that's exactly what happened. Did it all play out in the relatively small amount of time in the course of hours and not days? That would be true. Let's see if we can get some audio out of Scotty Powell there.
Yeah. I was going to say one other thing, James, was the rip currents that was taking place along the coast today. 10 rip current rescues in Wrightsville Beach and Carolina Beach today there in New Hanover County. I know, saw some pictures from Myrtle Beach. There was the no swim flags up. And when we have an onshore flow like that, that really stirs up the rip currents. And we're going to see as Danny moves out, we're going to continue to see that Bermuda high, that high pressure out over the Atlantic, continue those onshore flow winds. So we're going to see rip currents. I know this is going to be a pretty heavily traveled beach week and weekend. So those rip current risk will be high for the next few days along the coast. So as Danny moves out, still be mindful of that if you're heading to the beach.
And we are watching an area out there in the Atlantic that the National Hurricane Center is keeping a close eye on. This is one of those we'll watch over the course of several days into the week time span or so. 40 or 60% chance, kind of taking right along that path that you might expect. As for Danny, Danny will move on out, become a depression here shortly, and then kind of dissipate someplace over Georgia. But as Scotty mentioned, we'll be watching for the kind of the effects of that storm all along the coast. Again, if you're going to be out there in the water, Chris Jackson, I see him desperately trying to reconnect, and maybe he'll pop back up here on the screen. But we know you're trying, Chris. It's just not behaving.
James, I see a question here from Asheville. If they're going to get hit by that storm, if you don't mind, I can talk a little bit about the inland effects of what's going to take place as Danny, or the remnants of Danny, continues to move through the lowlands of South Carolina into the Midlands, and then eventually the upstate, northeast Georgia. It's going to start to lose some of its punch. But what happens with this is when we get a strong southeasterly flow, the HRR is showing some rainfall that could move into the upstate, including Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville, over towards Hickory, Statesville, the foothills and the mountains of North Carolina. We could actually see a band of rain develop late tonight and last through early tomorrow. Even some of the models are showing even through lunchtime tomorrow. So you can kind of see that band of rain that's going to be moving into the area. So when we have rain coming from this direction and that upslope component, it normally means we're going to see some localized heavy downpours. So don't be surprised if you live anywhere between Greenville, Spartanburg, up to Asheville, where I live here in Morganton, Hickory, Statesville, up into Wilkesboro, Boone, and then the mountains, that we could see some heavy rain showers tomorrow morning through the lunchtime hours. So don't be surprised if you pick up a quick inch or so. It will be kind of scattered, so not everybody will see that rainfall, but those who do see those scattered showers, maybe not to the extent as Chris experienced there in Hardyville, but if you are caught under one of these showers late tonight, early tomorrow, you could see a quick inch or so of rainfall. So just be mindful of that if you live anywhere in the upstate of South Carolina into the western and southwestern mountains of North Carolina.
Thank you for that question, for that analysis, Scotty. And Chris, I think, has changed devices, and we got him again.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there. I love NDI for the techies out there. I was using NDI. It just died. I don't know. I was like, oh well, I'm done. A long day.
Michael, watching on YouTube, he was in Charleston during Hugo, and of course that would have been a completely different story than what Tropical Storm Danny brought us, but we appreciate that perspective, and it does kind of give us a good scale of what any one of these could be, right? And you think about some of the biggest and most impactful hurricane seasons, and last year was certainly a record-breaking one, and it doesn't have to always be a 20 storm season to be impactful. It could just be one of these. So we had our fourth named storm, Danny, still out there on the map, but we'll have to obviously continue to watch what the rest of the season will bring, because we are just wrapping up June. We got July, we got August, and then the hurricane season doesn't even technically peak statistical average until early to mid-September. So if you have not yet prepared for the hurricane season, now is the time to do that. It always pays off to be prepared. It's better to not need the supplies than to need them and not have them. Chris, what do you guys travel with out there?
What's that, James? Try it one more time.
What do you guys travel with when you're out? Obviously, you're electing to put yourself into storms, which is a little bit different than what we would tell the average person to do. Right. But what do you guys bring along for survival? We got a Suburban that's custom fitted out to, if there is a way to fit a vehicle out to chase storms, this is it. We've got about 4 different modems in here to have connections and stuff like connectivity. And of course, with my fire department experience, I carry a couple little bags that's got enough of the basic essential stuff. If I run across somebody, I can, A, I can get myself out of trouble, and B, I can help somebody get out of trouble. And the biggest thing is, with having me, we try to not put ourselves in a situation that's going to have to result in, maybe somebody having to swim. But I don't hope ever happens to me. Fingers crossed. But the biggest thing is just being smart and being proactive and remembering that nothing's worth a human life. The only thing that's worth a human life is trying to save another human's life, and that's something I'll live by forever. Well, we appreciate the perspective you give, and a lot of times you might hear some pushback on storm chasers, and there's a line between safety and mission, right? But
Sure.
it's seeing is believing too, and that's why
right.
that's why storm chasers and journalists do what they do, because they can bring those pictures to you at home. Scotty, I think you had another point. We have another question in chat, so I'll toss the mic to you.
Yeah, so flash flood watch need for Asheville, Air Columbia areas. No, none of that. We're not going to see any really sustained heavy rain for long duration. So you may see some ponding on the roadways, maybe some small ditches or something like that filling up. This rain is going to be on the move. I don't foresee any flash flood needed. One thing you were talking about, the force storm, James, I was just kind of looking back through 3 of the 4 storms that we've already seen, Bill, Claudette, and now Danny, all have origins here in the Carolinas for one reason or the other. So that's just a little fun fact that Bill formed off the North Carolina coast, Claudette reformed in North Carolina. Right. And now we have Danny hitting South Carolina. So let's hope that's not an omen of what's to come later on down the road.
Hey, Scotty, or James, can I jump in here real quick? Before I lost my train of thought, you were asking James about the safety precaution. Something also, when we're out chasing, we try to coordinate. We try, between me and Brett, we know a good many people in the National Weather Service and local officials, stuff like that, especially in South Carolina with me. We try to coordinate with the local folks and let them know, hey, we're here, and shoot them a link to our stream. If nothing else, you can watch our stream and you can see exactly what's happening. And if that's a way to help ground confirm something just through the use of video. And I know the Weather Channel had our stream a few times today, and our app is free that we use. I'm not trying to give a shameless plug here, but the live chasing app through Live Storms Media, that's free for anybody. Anybody can watch that. And if you want to see what the impacts look like, there's no better way than to see it through video. I mean, video has a way of getting people's attention and telling a story unlike any human ever can.
Well, that's what the weather industry is all about, right? It might be competitive amongst TV stations or cable networks or whatever it may be, but right. It's all about collaborating and relaying that life-saving information.
Right. And of course, we got to make our money because we got to have the equipment to be able to get the stuff out. It's not a money-making thing for firsthand. It's for me at least, I do want to help people, and I'm just thankful I'm able to get out here and just do what I can. It might seem like some days you don't do a whole lot, and it might seem like you do a whole lot some days, but never stop trying, never stop trying the best.
Heck yeah, man. Nope. Love it. Oh, man. Well, Chris, we thank you guys for being out there and providing those pictures today. Some interesting stuff. A couple more interesting facts about today's storm is that about Danny today. One, it was the 4th time all in the last 20 years where we've had the D storm in June. 2015 Danny happened in August. I tweeted that to me this morning, and it's like, yeah. So I mean, we're really starting to blow through these names pretty fast once again. And the second one, which I can't believe, but this is incredible. So Phil Klotzbach has just a fascinating stat about Danny in South Carolina. Tropical storm Danny has made landfall in South Carolina. I'm just reading his tweet here because he says it better than I could. The first June named storm to make landfall in South Carolina since Hurricane 1 of 1867. How about that?
Say that one more time.
Wow. Danny is the first June named storm to make landfall in South Carolina since Hurricane 1 of 1867. Strictly in the month of June. Now, that's not counting Bertha. Yeah. I mean, Bertha last year obviously was May.
Was earlier.
Was earlier. But that's kind of remarkable. Considering that we do see plenty of effects from weak tropical systems, in this month, but a lot of times those are coming up, they're brushing the coast, they're brushing back to the Outer Banks, so they're coming in from the Gulf. There's countless storms that we've had come through there. This is
forced by fronts, or either blocked by the ridge.
Right. So this is kind of mind blowing, actually, and the fact that in with the easterly track, I mean, some of the early track returns on this, we're going to bring this into Savannah. Savannah hasn't had a hurricane strike in over a century.
Me and Brett had that conversation today. We were out in Tybee Island. That's my first time actually ever going out there, and I've lived in Columbia my whole life. I made the comment to him. I'm like, man, it's been a long time since they've ever seen a big cane out here, because I could tell a lot of the home construction, it reeks of, I ain't gonna say reeks because that sounds bad, but it just looks like 1950s, 1960s construction. It's like it's been a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And after what we saw in Laura last year along the Louisiana coast firsthand, man, I'm telling you, that storm gave me a whole new perspective on hurricanes last year, man.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. James, I think we're gonna bring this guy home. But any final thoughts on Danny? And there's going to be a lot to talk about. I suspect that we'll be talking about this for at least a few more days. Nerding out until the next one, right?
Yeah, no more thoughts other than what we talked about. But it's good to see you guys. Good, Scotty, James, Jared, all of you guys.
Good to see you, Chris.
Yeah, you guys know I get to, like, James, shoot me a message as long as I'm not like about to pass out, sleepy. Sure, I'll hop on.
Yep. Well, be safe out there, buddy, and good to see you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, get some rest.
Thanks, Chris.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
Thanks.
Later, man.
Before we go tonight, tease ahead to what's coming your way as a new episode of the Carolina Weather Group this Wednesday. Fill us in here, Scotty. You're the one who conducted the conversation. It's with our pal is it Chattanooga?
Yeah, so Paul Barris, he has been in the TV business. I don't have my notes right in front of me, but we talk about it in the episode. I think it's 47 years in the weather business, 35 of those years in Chattanooga, I believe. Wow. Is that. I don't have my notes in front of me, so you'll have to tune in to find out all the good details. But Paul forecasted the 1974 tornado outbreak, also the 2011 tornado outbreak that we've talked about here on the show. He also forecasted the 1993. If you live in Western North Carolina, it's known as the 93 blizzard, but sometimes it's referred to as the 93 superstorm. There's kind of a little back and forth between there of blizzard and superstorm. But anyway, it's one of the biggest snowfall events to ever happen in North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee. So we talk about that. We talk about how technology has changed throughout his career, starting in the 70s to currently what we're using. So a great conversation, great sit down. Paul retires on, let's see, what is July 2nd? Friday? Friday is his last day. So last day on air. So we're really enjoyed the conversation. Really good guy. And he's actually offered to come back and just do some guest hosting with us. So he liked it that much. So,
am I out of a job now? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No, you're not out of a job. But I also will tease a little bit while you guys were talking hurricane. I was going through Twitter to see if I could bring any good content. So I wasn't really affected by anything with Danny today. But a 4.2 magnitude earthquake hit San Francisco recently, just over the last 15 minutes. Our buddy Ed Piotrowski, actually on vacation out there.
I didn't realize he was out there.
Yeah, said his hotel swayed for about 15 to 20 seconds, and it was his first earthquake since he was growing up as a little boy in San Diego. So, yeah. You'll be hearing about this, I'm sure.
That sounds about right. Yeah, California is going to call that a baby, but that's a good shake. That's a really good shake.
Yes, normally when you hear about these earthquakes, they're not really in the center city area, but this one right in the San Francisco Bay Area. So
yeah, that's right there. I'm sure Tech Twitter is blowing up right now too. That's right. I mean, that you think Silicon Valley in that area. I mean, that's exactly where that is. So, oh boy,
looking at some of the data, Jared, it was pretty shallow too, just 6 miles deep. So.
And that makes sense then, with Ed's report about everything, his hotel swaying like that definitely makes sense. Probably felt a pretty decently long way too.
Yeah, you guys were talking, and I seen pop up on Twitter, tsunami not expected in San Francisco, and I was like, wait, what? So
that's normally a red flag.
I went to digging around, and I was like, that's why they're saying that. So.
Yeah. you can. That's I mean, that's incredible. I also didn't know that Ed was from San Diego. I wonder if he shares my same affinity for the Padres. I have to ask him next time he's on.
We'll have to ask.
Yeah, but no, that's I mean, it's been kind of wild. I think we'd be remiss not to note the, we alluded to this earlier, and I know that we're trying to get out of here, but the weather pattern right now in the continental U.S. is absolutely insane. I want to say Seattle hit 115 today.
Oh yeah.
There's a town in Canada, 118.
Yep. So we have ridges. We have ridges in the two.
Look at these excessive heat warnings. Look at it.
Yep.
If you're listening to our podcast, it's multiple states from Canada to Mexico.
Yep. And keep in mind that air conditioning is not exactly a staple in the Pacific Northwest because it doesn't need to be. And so keep those folks in your thoughts. What they're going through right now, I have some old coworkers and friends and family up there. And it's been a rough time for sure. And we're seeing a similar heat wave up in the Boston area. I mean, not quite as intense as maybe 115, but certainly they're also dealing with excessive heat warnings. They're dealing with very high heat indices for their area. And that part of the ridge is what steered Danny into our neck of the woods today.
Just looking at one of the graphics here on Twitter, 33 degrees warmer than average today in Seattle. So, I mean, 33 degrees warmer than average. That's, those climate prediction centers. I don't think there's a scale of red for that on there.
Oh, that's a 100%. I think that's a no doubter there as far as exceeding the normals. And thankfully there was a marine layer creeping up the Oregon coast, and within that marine layer it was 68 degrees. 35 miles away it was 95 degrees.
Can you imagine that?
To give you a general idea of the thermal gradient there.
Do you guys realize we didn't even talk about the hurricane on the Pacific side of Mexico?
There's so much going on.
This is Oh, and the fact that we have a Cape Verde storm, we have a wave coming off of Africa that's that far out that might develop in June.
Yeah,
what month is this?
It's scary. I mean, I'm not saying it's scary to kind of scare people, but it's kind of scary in the weather world. Like, man, we're not supposed to be this busy right now,
Right. If this is June, what's September?
Right. Yeah. So,
well,
I don't know.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing that we have Carolina Weather Group and the Carolina Weather Net to keep you up to date. You don't need a cable subscription for that. Watch us all the time.
Free.
We talk about all free. We talk about, we're constantly talking about and investigating this stuff more. So
definitely so. And you were talking about the heat. I would be remiss to add that we have a pretty strong cold front expected to move through the area on Friday. There's hints it completely clears the coast. There's hints it may kind of stall out. So those 4th of July plans are kind of iffy right now. If we can get the front off the coast, we're talking about highs on Sunday, July 3rd or July 4th, maybe not getting out of the 70s in parts of North Carolina with low humidity. I mean, when's the last time that's
with
happened?
Sun or clouds?
With sun, completely.
Well,
sun.
now I know where I'm going.
Sign me up.
I mean, if
All
we
right.
can get this, if we can
See
get
you
this
there.
front, if we can get the front out of here and off the coast, that's a possibility. But as Shay likes to say, fronts come to die here. And so there's also that possibility it stalls out over the Carolinas and it's a hot, humid, stormy weekend like 4th of July normally is around here. So we'll just have to see.
Well,
If we had more time, I'd do a Twitter poll.
Yeah. Indoor plans. Just make sure your indoor plans do not involve fireworks. That does
Mother
generally
Nature may
not
give
end
her Mother Nature may give her own fireworks.
She's got it covered.
Point, so
There you go. Well, that does do it for this special live edition of the Carolina Weather Group. On behalf of Shay and Chris and Scotty and Jared, I am James Brierton. Thanks for joining us for this live analysis of Tropical Storm Danny. We'll keep a close eye on it for the next few hours or so. But again, it's expected to weaken and bring, again, some rains, but no need for a flash flood watch or really not much else to talk about as we wrap up this Monday. But it was a day that started with a chance for development, then a tropical depression 4, then a tropical storm, and then a landfall. As Jared mentioned, you can find nonstop weather coverage from us with real-time conditions across the Carolinas streaming for free anytime. No cable or satellite subscription is needed. Just check out the Carolina Weather Net at carolinaweathergroup.com, or you can find it on YouTube. And I'll just tell you, it makes a great little feature for the YouTube app there on your Roku or Amazon Fire. Just pop that on up, and off you go to the races, and you can stay entertained and informed throughout the day. So that does it for now. As Scotty mentioned, we have an all-new episode of the Carolina Weather Group, our weekly show coming your way. That's Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. For now, I'm James Brierton. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.